Roger, in June, the UK will vote on whether to remain in the European Union or not. If they do decide to leave the EU, what risks and opportunities might that present for Europe and the rest of the globe?
Yes, on June 23rd, the referendum to decide whether they continue to be part of the European Union. I mean, in terms of the long term, we can talk about risk and opportunities. We think in the short term, clearly there will be a little bit of volatility and risk from the uncertainty leading to that decision. If they do leave, I mean, we have to think in terms of what are the economic linkages between Britain and the continent and the rest of the continent, being one of them international trade. 50% of trade in the UK comes from the rest of Europe, right? So it's not that all that is going to be gone, but clearly the tariff treatment that those imports and exports are going to receive from the rest of Europe are going to be similar to the ones that other non-European, non-EU countries, right? And that clearly is going to destroy a little bit of trade. Foreign direct investment, that is companies from continental Europe locating in the UK to do businesses, hiring people and building factories, that also would get a little bit of, basically could be affected. And we can think of many banks and many companies that basically reside in London in order to get access to the European market, which also could be affected by this decision. So clearly, in the short term, there will have to be a lot of questions answered in terms of how all these shocks will be digested for the European economy, for Britain, right? Long term, of course, the autonomy for the UK in terms of migration, in terms of regulations, financial regulations, other things could start bearing some fruit, but clearly the risks are more front-loaded if they decide to leave. Regardless of whether they leave or not, it's really the uncertainty around the voting of this decision and how the markets are going to react. We are starting to see a little bit of movement in the currency markets, in the pound sterling. We would anticipate that regardless of what the decision is, there will be volatility leading to that time period.
And just to further amplify Roger's points, I mean, again, from our reading and from our experts in London, our team in London, it's hard to say how it will not be a very close call in regards to the outcome. And so if you do play that forward, there could be a little bit of parallels to say in the U.S. where a great deal of uncertainty around, if you recall 2011 and so forth, the fiscal cliff, 2012, right? The sort of, are we going to have a budget impact, are we not? And the risk of default, you know, so that in itself, again, you know, the dust settled, but that sort of volatility spike certainly led at minimum to a pausing of certain business and investment decisions. Financial market volatility spiked, and so that left a sort of, and subsequently, several months later, we had a soft patch in the U.S. economy. I think it's fair to say at the minimum that's what we're looking at. I mean, should Britain decide to leave the European Union, it's hard to see that the UK does not, the UK economy does not fall into recession. That's not to say a reason not to do it. Again, that's not our purpose here.
And we have to also to think of the implications on the European Union side, right? If the UK decides to leave, which country is going to be next, right? I mean, the European Union is a political and economic project of integration in terms of commerce, in terms of other common interests. But clearly, there is a sense with all the euro crisis we have been living over the last couple of years or more, right? That there are some aspects that are not working that well. And basically, an event like this one could trigger questions about other countries going through the same.
Well, sure, because you could make the strong argument that the UK economy is among the, not necessarily the most vibrant, but among the most vibrant and diversified of the European Union economy. So all else equal, should that Brexit occur, European Union as an economy, as an economic entity, is just weaker.